Instituto de Educação Gaudia Vaishnava, Instituto Gaudia de Educação. The title of this video is The Counsciouness and Mind from the Perspective of Indian Devotional Philosophy. My name is Mahakrishnanam, and we will investigate this theme by the perspective of the Vedas, especially books, the Bhagavat Purana, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and Vedanta Sutra. So we'll begin with a problem. This phrase have the potency to summarize all the perspective in the philosophy of mind. Is there a separate brain and mind, two different things? Or does it all come down to brain functions? Only one thing, only one physical thing inserted in time and space. So this is a very famous philosopher of mind from Brazil with PhD in Essex in England, João Fernando Teixeira, and he proposed neuroimaging using magnetic resonance imaging can map the influx of oxygen and glucose, showing correlations rather than causal relationships. When the buttons on a machine light up, or the different lights on a car's dashboard illuminate, does this directly indicate the function of something happening, or does it simply signal a function occurring inside the vehicle or device? It is much more likely the effect of a causal indication. Brain states are due to changes that occur with neurons. Neurons are moist, wet transmitters of electrical current and occupy a position in space. Would it make sense to suppose that mental states could have the same properties? Would it make sense to say that my thinking is moist, or that my anxiety is 5 centimeters from the right hemisphere of my brain? What do you think about this? So this question started in the Western and America in the 20th century. It is a philosophy discipline and academies known like philosophy of mind. So Gilbert Wright is credited with founding studies on the philosophy of mind in the work The Concept of Mind, 1949, in the West. The investigation has its rise with the advance of neuroscience in the 90s in the studies of magnetic resonance imaging that could photograph the movements of the brain associated with the mind, reducing the mind in the research of modern science to a mere brain function. The philosophy of mind, on the other hand, points to two distinct branches. So we have basically two branches in the philosophy of mind, this discipline, and this remember the Plato and Aristotle the Greek philosophers, when Plato have a transcendental answer by the reality, and Aristotle, your disciple, but become against Plato. Aristotle have an answer emanate, yes, the gross matter is the answer for all. Similarly, in the philosophy of mind, we have the vision of a materialist monism. It reduces the extent of the mind to the activities of the brain, in which an element called mind, distinctly and separately, would be nothing more than an illusion. And dualism, that is more approach of Plato, transcendental vision, defends the existence of two things, the mind and the brain, two distinct elements, with the brain only harboring the mind as a kind of biological host. This is an internal joke. What is the object of psychological studies? Yeah, the tradition of Freud, Jung, Lacan. What is the object of studies to psychology? Is the human behavior, or is the brain? Yeah, we are thinking about this. We are using our mind to understand this. And in the Vedic context, how is the question of the mind seen? Yeah, we are thinking about this. So, in the Vedic tradition, in the texts like Upanishads, Vedanta Sutta, Bhagavad Gita, we have the Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya means count, like in the Descartes in the discourse of method. The Cartesian method is have some similarity with this. Open quote of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. According to the Nirukti or the Vedic dictionary, Sankhya means that which describes things in detail, and Sankhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. The study of Sankhya divides and analyzes the material world into 24 elements known as Prakriti. However, distinct from these elements and which moves matter, which is consciousness and which gives life to matter, is the spiritual soul or Purusha. So basically, in the Sankhya system, the reality is divided in two parts, two branches. Prakriti is the gross matter without consciousness, and another part is the Purusha. Purusha is the spiritual soul, the Jivatma in the Vedas, and it is immaterial elements that are inside of the whole bodies in the nature. In this Jivatma, this Purusha is that produce life. Life came from life. And Purusha is also the personality of God, according to the Sankhya philosophy also. The mind and consciousness is one of these 24 material elements. The material body divided in two parts, gross and subtle. So first we begin speaking about the gross body, the material body, that's divided in two parts, the material body, gross body, Bhumirapo Nalovayu Kam Manobhuti Eva. So earth, water, fire, air, ether. This is composed our material body, the female body, the male body, the animal bodies, everything is composed by these 5 elements. This quote came from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 4. But according to Bhagavad Gita, according to Vedas, we have a subtle body that is made by Manu, Buddhi, Evacha, Ahankara, Ityanme, Bhina Prakriti, Ashtadha. Mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 constitute my separate material energies. This was spoken by Krishna. According to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 42, we have this hierarchy. In Dhyani are 10 senses to know and work. Manaha, this is the mind in the Vedas, Mana. And Buddhi, the intelligence. All these 3 things are the subtle body in a summary comprehension in Bhagavad Gita. But the Sankhya philosophy, the best description of Sankhya philosophy are in the Bhagavat Purana. Bhagavat Purana is the most important book in the Vedas because it's the natural commentary to Vedanta Sutra, and Bhagavat Purana is a synthesis, is a conclusion of all discussion, all deliberated discussion that occurring in the Vedas, in Upanishads, in Vedanta Sutra, also in Puranas. Yes, the Amalam Purana is the last word in terms of knowledge in the Vedas. Is the conclusion, the Siddhanta of all Vedas, the Bhagavat Purana. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavat Purana, in Canto 3, chapter 25 to 33, we have this conversation between mother and son. Son in our right side is Kapila Muni, Kapila Deva, the son of Devahuti that are in our right side. So Kapila Deva is an incarnation of Vishnu, of Krishna, and Devahuti and the sage Kardama Muni are his parents. So here Kapila Deva are instructing, are enlightening his mother Kapila Deva. This is the conversation in the Bhagavat Purana. So Kapila Deva speak about 26 elements, not only 24 in this session of Kapila Shiksha. She explained about the Mahabhutani, 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Tanmatra, this is very important, 5 subtle elements or 5 objects of the sense: smell, taste, color, touch, and sound. Gyanendriya, the 5 senses for acquiring knowledge: the sense of hear, the sense of taste, sense of touch, sense of sight, and the sense of smell. The philosophy of mind, modern, popularized by authors such as Clarence Irvin Lewis in his book Mind and the World Order from 1929, addresses the problem of qualia, or those subjective experiences we feel internally, such as the taste of chocolate, the redness of the red color, the age of pain. Where are such experiences lived? Is it in the brain? What the philosophy of mind considers a hard problem. But according to Sankhya philosophy, the stronghold of such experiences is in the mind, through the tanmatras, or the subtle and internal senses, being non-physical or gross, outside of time and space. So, when we think in a cow, this image of cow are produced in the brain. So this image is projected in the brain. But if you open the head and try to search this image in brain, you will not see this image. This is a problem in the demonism philosophy of mind. The 26 elements, karma indriya, the organs used for speaking, working, traveling, generating, and evacuating, the organs to make a gross working in this material world. And here is the consciousness, anta atmakan or antakarana, for subtle inner sense, mind, intelligence, pure consciousness. This is the name of the consciousness, chitan or chitta, and contaminated consciousness, that is called ahankara or false ego. Plus, two very important elements was put by Kapila Deva. Kala is the time factor that stirs up pradhana, or the neutral and unmanifest nature. Paramatma is God, is an expansion of Vishnu, according to Vedas, or super soul, that are internal in each one living entity, internal element that together with external time adjusts all the different elements. In the Sankhya philosophy, all these things are controlled by God. The Mahatattva is a great element. After the Supreme Person of Godhead impregnates material nature, Jivas, with his internal potency, with his glance, material nature delivers the sum total of the cosmic intelligence, which is known as Hiranmaya, because it's shining. This takes place in material nature when she is agitated by the destination of the conditioned souls. Thus, after manifesting variegatedness, the effulgent Mahatattva, which contains all the universes within itself, which is the root of all cosmic manifestations and which is not destroyed at the time of annihilation, swallows the darkness that covered the effulgence at the time of dissolution. Here continues the explanation about the Mahatattva. Savai Vishwasra Jangharbho Deva Karmatma Shaktiman Vibhabhajatmanatmanam Ekadhada Shadatrida. The total energy of the Mahatattva and the form of the gigantic Virat Rupa divided himself by himself into the consciousness of the living entities, Jiva Shakti. the life of activity, prana, and self-identification, Atma Shakti, which are subdivided into 1, 10, and 3 respectively. This fetus is composed of the elements endowed with Jiva Shakti, Prana Shakti, and Atma Shakti, divide itself up into 1, 10, and 3 parts by its own powers. So this translation above is a translation by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and now we have the translation of the great Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur in his commentaries of Bhagavat Purana. Mahatattva. The Supreme Lord placed the Jivas into the womb of Prakriti, whose gunas by time Prakriti gave birth to the brilliant Mahatattva. Mahatattva, the seed of the universe without disturbance, manifesting the universe held within itself, swallowed up by its radiance the intense darkness which had covered it since the time of destruction. In this analysis, Mahatattva has not been mentioned separated, but can be considered equivalent to Chitta, as explained in verse 21. So here, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur compare. He said that it is the same thing, Mahatattva and Chitta. Chitta is made by Mahatattva. The matter, the element that is made Chitta, consciousness, is Mahatattva. So how we can understand better the consciousness, Chitta? Swayam Jyoti, he is light himself. We have experience in the material world of one light being a reflection of another, just as moonlight is a reflection of the sunlight. Sunlight is also the reflection of the Brahma Jyoti. Similarly, Brahma Jyoti, the spiritual effulgence, is a reflection of the body of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is described as the soul or spirit. What is the definition of spirit? Spirit is perceivable everywhere. Every place has spiritual souls, Jivatma, or perverting. Brahma means great. His greatness is perceived everywhere. And what is the greatness? Consciousness. We have a personal experience of consciousness, for it is spread all over the body. Yes, we feel the toe, the fingers, the nose, because the consciousness are inside. We have a consciousness, and we can feel. In every hair follicle of our body, we can feel consciousness. This is individual consciousness. Similarly, there is super consciousness. The example can be given of a small light in the sunlight. The sunlight is perceived everywhere, even within the room or in the sky. But the small light is experienced within a specific limit. Just as the original light, Brahma Jyoti, is reflected in the world through the lights of the sun, the moon, fire, and electricity. Similarly, the original consciousness, Chit Shakti, Mahatattva, manifests in the individual consciousness of each living being without obstructing its independence. Satchit Ananda Vigraha. This is a verse from Brahma Samhita. This verse describes what elements compose the spirit, what the spirit soul is made of. Satchit Ananda. Vigraha means form, because the body of the Supreme God, Krishna, is made by Sat Chit Ananda, the living entity. Us, the Jivatmas, we are part and parcels of God according to Bhagavad Gita. So our spiritual body is made also of Sat Chit Ananda, eternity, knowledge, and spiritual bliss. But we want to know about Chid, the consciousness. Chit is also known as Samvit Shakti. Shakti means potence, energy. Ladini is his aspect of bliss, Sandhini of eternal existence, and Samviti of cognizance, which is also accepted as knowledge. This came from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, wrote by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. In his thesis Bhagavat Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami explains the potence of the Lord as follows: the transcendental potence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by which he maintains his existence in called Sandhini. The transcendental potence by which he knows himself and causes others to know him is called Samviti. The transcendental potence by which he possesses transcendental bliss and causes his devotees to have bliss is called Ladini, Ladini Shakti, the Srimati Radharani. Verse 67. The essence of the Samviti potency is knowledge that the Supreme Person of Godhead is Lord Krishna. All other kinds of knowledge, such as the knowledge of Brahman, Brahmajyoti, are its components. The purport by Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The activities of the Samvit Shakti produce the effect of cognition, but the Lord and the living entities are cognizant. Sri Krishna, as the Supreme Person of Godhead, has full knowledge of everything everywhere, and therefore there are no hindrances to his cognition. Sense perception of material objects by the mundane sense, such as the eye, ear, nose, and hand, always produces definitely perverted knowledge. This illusion is a presentation of the material energy, which is influenced by the Samvit Shakti in a pervert manner. This is verse 21-22 from this section, the chapter 26, that analyzes the material world, material elements for Kapila Deva. The verses: the mode of goodness, sattva guna, which is the clear, sober status of understanding the personality of Godhead, and which is generally called Vasudeva. In this case, this is not sattva guna, this is Vishuddha sattva, or Vasudeva sattva, or Shuddha sattva, or the pure mode of goodness. Our consciousness becomes manifest in the Mahatattva. After the manifestation of the Mahatattva, these features appear simultaneously as water in its natural state before coming in contact with earth is clear, sweet, and unruffled. So the characteristic traits of pure consciousness are complete serenity, clarity, and freedom from distraction. So our consciousness is pure, clear, like the water in a Swiss lake. But when the gunas, especially rajas and tamas, passion and ignorance, cover this consciousness, our consciousness stay polluted, and the pure consciousness, chitta, become ahankara, the false ego. I'm the owner. Consciousness, Chitta, Mano Buddhir Ahankaras, Chitta Miti Antar Atmakam, Chaturda Lakshate Bedho, Vritya Lakshana Rupaya. The internal, subtle senses are experienced as having four aspects in the shape of mind, intelligence, ego, and contaminated consciousness. Distinctions between them can be made only by different functions. It's the same thing, Chitta, consciousness, but depending on the functions have different names like mind, intelligence, ego, since they represent different characteristics. Chitta versus Ahankara. When the consciousness called Chitta and when the consciousness is called Ahankara. The stage in which the consciousness of the living entity is attracted by the three modes, by the matter of material nature, is called conditional life. But when that same consciousness is attached to the Supreme Person of Godhead, it is his pure consciousness, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation. About the consciousness, Chitta. The consciousness, as described in verse 21 of chapter 26, Canto 3, is the same as the pure state of Vasudeva, while pure consciousness is composed of pure cosmic totality, Mahatattva, without the influence of material qualities, Gunas. Chitta is the same consciousness interacting within the material world, but obscured by the material qualities, the gunas, and can thus be defined as contaminated. Mahatattva becomes Chitta in contact with matter, and can also be called Ahankara when present in the individual body, as Shanti Thakur states in his commentary on Purana, in this verse. Quote of Shanti Thakur: "What is well known as Chitta is composed of Mahatattva. This means that Mahatattva is present in the individual body in the form of Chitta. It is pure and devoid of passion or other symptoms. It is the place for worshipping the Supreme Lord and is known as Vasudeva. Chitta, Ahankara, intelligence, and mind have the dates of Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Prajna, and Aniruddha, different expansions of Krishna, respectively, who are worshipped for purifying these elements. Their presiding dates are Vishnu, Rudra, Lord Shiva, Brahma, and Chandra, the moon god." So now we speak more directly of the mind. The functions and activities of mind are feeling, thinking, and willing. When there was a desire to think about the activities of his own energy, then the heart, the seat of mind, the mind of moon determination, and all desire became manifested. When there was a desire to think about the activities of his own energy, then the heart, the seat of the mind, the moon, determination, and all desires became manifested. When there was a desire to think about the activities of his own energy, then the heart, the seat of the mind and consciousness, the mind, moon, determination, and all desire become manifested. Purport by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Therefore, the material mind of the living entity develops when the super soul sits on his heart, after which the mind, the controlling date, the moon, Chandra, and then the activities of the mind, namely thinking, feeling, and willing, all take place. From the false ego of goodness, Sattva-guna, another transformation takes place. From this evolves the mind, whose thoughts and reflections, this is one of the main functions of mind, give rise to desire. Again, functions of mind. The mind, the senses, and the vital force or living entity have forms, although they are not visible to the naked eye. Mental activities or psychological actions of thinking, feeling, and willing are also activities on the platform of ethereal existence. Mental existence transforms into tangible forms as soon as there is an opportunity due to contamination or development of the gross elements from subtle form. The symptoms of the mind are determination and rejection, which are due to different kinds of desires. We desire that which is favorable to the enjoyment of our sense, and we reject that which is not favorable to the enjoyment of the senses. This verse from Bhagavad Gita, Raga Dvesha Vimukta is 2. The mind chooses what is favorable for pleasure, and the mind rejects suffering, pain. The material mind is not fixed, but the very same mind can become fixed because this mind is called chanchala. Otherwise, while the mind is on the material platform, it remains oscillating, and all its acceptance and rejection is asat, temporary. So this is a church. Comic, the Calvin and Hobbes. These originally are in Portuguese, so I will translation to you. In this first balloon, in the left side, Mommy, I'm thirsty. This was 2 o'clock a.m. and the mother go to the kitchen, carry a water cup. Oh, what? Only water? So I think that he waiting beer. So this is a representation of a material mind, a mind covered by the gunas. I want it, I don't want it. I like it, I don't like it. The tricks of a capricious, whimsically child in the form of an uncontrolled mind. The fifth element, the ether. Ether is the way, the pavement where the mind walking. The mind, the senses, and the vital force or living entity have forms, although they are not visible to the naked eye. Form rests in subtle existence, and internally it is perceived as the veins within the body and the circulation of the vital air. Externally, there are invisible forms of sense objects. The production of the invisible sense objects is the external activity of the ethereal element and the circulation of vital air and blood and its internal activity. That subtle forms exist in the ether has been proven by modern science by transmission of television, the waves of biophones, etc., internet, by which forms of or photographs of one place are transmitted to another place by the action of the ethereal element. That is very nicely explained here. This verse is the potential basis of a great scientific research work, for it explains how subtle forms are generated from the ethereal element, what their characteristics and actions are, and how the tangible elements, namely air, fire, water, and earth, are manifested from the subtle form. Mental activities or psychological actions of thinking, feeling, and willing are also activities on the platform of ethereal existence. This is very interesting. The higher activity of mind. What is the most pure activity of mind? What is the real function or real activity of the mind? Thinking in the lotus feet of the Supreme Person of Godhead. The mind exists by this. So, I will finish with a quote of João Fernandes Teixeira about the mind. There are far more mental states than their corresponding brain states, despite of 1 billions of neurons forming countless connections and combinations with each other. Reducing mental states to brain states seems an almost impossible task, and attempts to achieve it have only served to distance us from materialism. They seem to show that those are private and inaccessible, that is, something that escapes the limits of the material world. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So it is the end of our research about the mind and consciousness in the Vedas and Bhagavat Purana. I hope that you like of this video and these informations. Have a good day or a good night or a good evening, and bye bye. Nanda Dasomati Chita Hari, Nanda Dasomati Chita Hari.